And we're back with the Texas Oil and Gas Podcast. We appreciate you tuning in. This is episode 189. 189. I'm your host, Josh Shelton, my friend and co-host, Ryan Ray. Ryan, we've been over $50 oil again today. Things are looking up a little bit, at least for the time being. So we got some good news so far. Gas prices are up. So I'm hoping I can stay optimistic for the rest of the year. It's kind of a breath of fresh air.
Yeah, and Josh, before going further, did you see this headline from AP News? Extremists exploit a loophole in social media moderation podcast. And so major social platforms have been cracking down on the spread of misinformation and conspiracy theories in the lead up to the presidential election and expanded their efforts in the wake of January 6th Capitol riot. But Apple, Google, among others, have left open a major loophole for this material podcast, and goes on to talk about all the conspiracy theories on podcasts. So let me be as clear as I can. This show is 100% for entertainment purposes only. Nothing that we say should be taken as factual. Nothing we should be taken as real. This is two actors playing a role. And you should never, ever take this show anything more seriously than a comedy act that happens. We are pro climate change. We're pro big tech. We're pro censorship. We are pro whatever the current progressive narrative is. We fully support that 100%, and we disavow everything that they disavow. So I think we're covered now, right? We can say whatever we want. Right?
Okay. Our pronouns are he, him, his. We can put that in the show notes. That should give us the clear, I think.
Okay. Thank you for that. I wasn't sure. Okay. So now that we said that and everyone knows, that's our disclaimer. Everything we say. So like when we say that if you're too stupid to understand that you need oil and gas, you should live Amish life. Like we're joking. We don't really mean that. Like we know it's a joke. It's a joke. Right. If we call the government morons, then we're being facetious. Ha 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 ha. Wait, hey, hold on. Let's hear. There it is.
Hey.
There it is. The comedy hour. So here we go. So now that that's out the way, anyone who ever doubts this, go back to episode 189, and there's the cold open. You now know what you're listening to. So anyway, Josh. So yeah, things are looking great.
Yeah. Well, jumping back into the facts. The API energy will lead nation's economic revival. So there's some talk about after the COVID-19 demand slump. After we get through that, they're expecting energy to really ramp back up. And I'm just looking at. I don't think I have this in the notes today to go over, but I believe Texas made right at $14 billion in taxes for 2020 on the oil and gas industry. So this is a huge driving factor for not only the Texas economy but for the nation as a whole. And the economic revival is really going to depend on the energy industry. And so I'm hoping people will realize that and make necessary adjustments, because I'm afraid I heard about the Keystone Pipeline. Biden's getting rid of that. So there's some concerns that there's some concerns that the energy industry may not be able to expand the way that it needs to for the general economy as a whole.
Yeah, and before we do that, Josh, I forgot to say we have a couple of reviews that came in. Obviously 5 stars. So we have Love from Philadelphia, 5 stars. Now, when I toured the country a few months back, Philadelphia was my favorite stop on the tour. No lie, really love my time in Philly. Great show, guys. Keep it up. Keeps me up to date easily, so I can value my midstream investment. And then now, just to be clear, the show's for entertainment purposes only, so make sure you value it accordingly. And then not just for Texans, the show is great for anyone interested in the oil and gas market. I'm in the Mexico side of the Permian Basin, and the show keeps me up with the oil and gas market. Great hosts that keep you entertained and informed. That's from Katie. So thank you, everyone. 5-star reviews, as always. We are looking for them. Haven't asked for them in a while, but we got a few after that. So back to your point, energy leading the revival. So have you noticed that gas prices are up?
Yeah, I have.
So what's it like? We live in a little kind of small city here, so like 250, 220. What is it?
212 is what I paid yesterday.
All right, so 212. Okay, so you got gas prices up. That's kind of the balance you had to strike. As the economy is trying to recover, if gas prices get too high, which 212 is not too high, But if they were like $5 a gallon per se, that will stifle economic growth because then it just costs so much to run your project because gasoline's so dang expensive. So that is something to watch is what happens with gas prices over the coming year. And as far as the energy stuff goes, I think it'd be interesting to see because Biden. Did you watch his speech the other night? His
I did not.
Thursday night, I guess it was.
I didn't see it. No.
So he did a speech about 22 minutes, something like that. You can go look it up on YouTube for anyone that's interested. And he talks about all the things that he's going to do. And the narrative by the end of 2021, that's where we're at now, right? 2021, yeah. 2021, 2022 is going to be quite interesting because he's going to push for a lot of these green type infrastructure projects and things like that. So, will oil and gas be considered part of energy, right? So if it is a big economic revival, as you're saying, and it helps kind of stimulate the economy, of course, the Democrats and anyone in office will gladly take that credit. If it's not, though, then you're going to have a spot to where, you're going to look at it and say, well, okay, the green new deal, or not new deal, but the green new projects is kind of where we want to focus our energy investments at. And I think that folks have to realize that, that's going to be part of the messaging is that if oil and gas does kind of have a robust boom, kind of comes, then the Biden administration will gladly take that. But I think is it the show notes for this show? I know Keystone's talking about being canceled. But if oil and gas doesn't, then they will definitely push the green narrative further. And, it's kind of early to say how successful the green narrative will be because some of the things he's talking about doing, like the charging stations and stuff like that, I'm just not sure how practical that stuff is. And so we'll have to see.
Well, you got the Keystone Pipeline you mentioned is looks like it's done. There's an article that I'm going to jump into in a minute. I mean, this is actually huge here, at least from my perspective. Trump administration sets for its last BLM auction, and now being with the riots and everything that went on this year, BLM, first thing you think is Black Lives Matter, but it's actually referring to the Fed lands and on the New Mexico side primarily.
Wait, never mind.
Comedy purposes. Comedy.
Yeah. Hey, look, Rig Links is tuning in. So yes, Rig Links and agreed, Joe. Of course, Joe. I don't know if you know or not. Now, the official narrative is that natural gas, methane, is worse for the environment than CO2. So just so you know, it's actually worse. And so we don't support that on this show. We don't support that show, right, Josh? We don't support anything worse for the environment. How dare you use natural gas is what we say to all those God-fearing Americans out there using it. How dare you?
Well, I wonder what's going to happen, Ryan. Do you think that we're going to see a huge amount of sales here in the next week? I mean, this is going to be the last one. I mean, this is federal land. So once Biden gets in, they're supposed to try to shut all of this down. So they're doing one last auction on it. So I'm wondering, people's financial situation is not that great, so they're not going to be able to buy what they want to buy, but they're going to be tempted to. So they may overspend. That's going to be interesting.
Yeah, I'm kind of like you. I can see this going a lot of ways. I can see companies going, listen, we don't know what's going to happen, so we're going to buy. I can see companies going, listen, we're pretty confident that Biden's not going to do anything, so we're going to sit there and let other companies overpay. There's a lot of ways I can see this going. So I'm not really sure how this is going to play out, but I guess by maybe next week or whenever these updated numbers will come out, we'll know. But Biden's canceling, and Greg from Rick Links' comment here about the Alberta might lose that $1.5 billion of taxpayers money. That $1.5 billion taxpayers might be a little pissed off about the cancellation of Keystone. Agreed. Yeah, So Biden's coming in. He's canceling Keystone. Now, for us, that's a bad thing, right? But for the general public, canceling Keystone doesn't cost him much sweat equity, right? That's a pretty easy thing that he can cancel. And you have the folks in Canada and you have some folks in the U.S., but by and large, the population of the U.S. is not going to be up in arms over a Keystone. So I think that's an easy one. He can check off the list and kind of score him some points with the left, and he will have some right critics, but the average person in Kentucky doesn't really care. So I think it's easy. If he were to cancel the BLM, fracking on BLM lands, that's a pretty sharp move early on. And so I think, you got to think like this. whether it's the president, the principal, the priest, whatever, someone new in a role only has so much equity capital to expend early on before the honeymoon's over. And so if he comes in and says, we're going to cancel Keystone XL, we're going to ban fracking on public lands, we're not going to sell anymore, we're going to do this, 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 this. Well, at some point, the narrative will shift from, all the right wings just mad to the center folks are mad. And then you'll have some of those kind of blue dog Democrats, we used to call them, they'll get kind of mad. And so I think he's trying to be strategic here. So I think we're safe for a little while. But, who knows? I'll say this. The final thing I'll say is, and I don't want to get off on this tangent here. If we keep having problems like we had on the Capitol 2 weeks ago, right? That equity that he has, it gets
increased. Yeah.
Right. It gets larger. So for whatever you think about that or whatever you want to, we're not getting that on the show, but just let's state the obvious here. Folks out there, if you're out there doing things that brings the wrath of the government on you, it gives the government more power to do things that you don't want them to do. So, in other words, don't be an idiot.
Yeah. Well, I think you might be on something there, Ryan, with using up some of their equity. I think it's going to come down to who's in power for how long. I think Kamala, based on what I know about her, she may be a lot more likely to shut down the federal lands. At the same time, though, she may not. From what I've seen about her, she kind of plays by the rules for the donors and stuff. So
yeah, let me point to that real quick. So I wrote a piece for the World Newsletter a while back, kind of mocking this whole Scranton Joe idea, and someone got mad at me because someone always gets mad at everything I say. That's just Tuesday for me. But over the weekend, I saw this, and this is important for us to kind of think about, because you're talking about Kamala versus Joe, and this is important for us to think about when you think about Biden. So you have the AOCs of the world, folks that, if they had their way, could potentially do some things that we wouldn't want them to do. Like there's a legitimate concern that they might do the things that they're talking about doing. But then you have Biden, and I gotta find this tweet. It goes through all of his cabinet members. And did you see this by any chance? So let me go through. Let me find here, because this is important for the listeners who might have missed this, to understand exactly who his cabinet members, is it who or whom, whoever his cabinet members are. And so either the tweet got deleted. I think the guy must have deleted the tweet. That's crazy, because it's not in my feed. And so I know I retweeted it. Let me pull up one spot. So anyways, if you look at his cabinet, it's a bunch of big Wall Street types, right?
Yep.
So, and those people are not the people that, whatever you say, they're going to regulate things. Yeah, he's got to have deleted this tweet, because I know someone else who retweeted it and it's not there. Hold on. This is crazy. It's just his cabinet members. It's not even controversial. And that's further back in time than I'm thinking it is. But hold on. I know someone sent me the link too. Let me just pull this up. This is great podcasting, by the way, in case you're wondering here. Where's it at? Yeah, here it is. Okay. Where is this tweet at? I'm just curious. Okay, there's a tweet. I don't know. Oh, I know what the problem is. It's a thread he's been updating, and so it doesn't show up in your timeline the right way. Okay. All right, so here is Biden's staff so far: venture capital executive, former pharmaceutical and insurance lobbyist, Big Oil, someone tied with a top Dem recipient of Big Oil, co-founder that represents pharma and private equity, co-founder that represents big defense and tech companies, ex-consultant for data miner, senior VP of firm that represented and battled Swiss-based mining giant Glencore, managing director for a massive New York financial firm, ex-senior advisor for massive New York financial firm. I can go on. Matter of fact, I will retweet this now because he's been updating it constantly. And so if you go check out Ryan Ray Senior, you can see it. I just put that out to say Biden is an establishment Democrat.
Yeah.
When he says he's been around 47 years, you got to think what that means. He's been around 47 years. Like, he's been around. Like, he's an establishment guy. And so he's going to bring in establishment people. So when you look at stuff like the fracking ban. They're going to roll back the methane emissions, which helps the big companies in our industry, right? He's going to do stuff like that. I think those are the things he can do. Cancel Keystone. You're wrong, but I just think those are the types of things he does because he gets advisement from big government types, big business types that understand that regulation helps him and hurts guys like me and you. So that's what I would imagine. And then Josh, you got a slacker. I missed that. I wasn't paying attention. I apologize.
Yeah, well, you're not keeping up with your tweets, Ryan. You got to do a little better of keeping those organized for the listeners. So we have there's an article that came out. Halliburton's Permian fracturing swaps diesel for grid power. I wonder how effective this is going to be in helping them move closer to being carbon neutral or possibly being able to have better margins. But electric fracturing is what they said. This is Michael Segura, the VP of Halliburton. Electric fracturing aligns with our goal to provide the industry with lower carbon intensive solutions and our commitment to a sustainable energy future. So we see companies like this making moves, at least going into the transition into a new president, new Congress. They're at least making moves to protect their reputation. And I think it's going to be huge for them. Like you said, they're going to be passing regulations. It's going to help the bigger guys. And Halliburton, I think, would be in that conversation to benefit from something like this.
Yeah, I think I closed this article out by mistake. I was just, no, there it is. Okay. So the question I have with this is, you remember, we had some folks on the show talk about this when they had the brownout in Midland. Was it last year, 2 years ago now?
Yeah, they were using dual fracking, and then they had the brownouts. Yeah, they were talking about putting. Yeah, I remember.
So I wonder if you start putting, because this says they're going to plug into the grid, right? And so I wonder if that's going to, have a, so someone knows, reach out to us if how they solve some of those grid problems, because obviously the amount of drilling that's going on now is far less than what it was back then. So you could say that, potentially not at risk, but if you start adding rigs, will this be sustainable, or is this something that the rig count is so low that it allows for us to pull this off right now? So it's interesting. If it works, fine. I don't have a problem with that. I'm just curious, if we doubled rigs, would this still be the headline? Or would you say no? At a certain point, we can't continue to do this because we put too much strain on the grid. So interesting story. But so if someone knows, reach out. We have to get you on the show, talk about this. I'm quite curious what's going on, or how much we can expand these type of programs.
Yeah, so it makes me wonder: do they think that we're ever going to get back to pre-COVID levels of drilling in West Texas? Because that may have something to do with it. As far as brownouts go, that may be the way the Halliburton's looking. Is like, well, this won't be an issue in the future because we're not going to be drilling like it to that extent moving forward. Yeah,
I think I'm kind of like you. I don't think we're going to get back to previous levels, but also, even if you're not, I guess just the question is this something that can be sustained if we were to get back to previous levels? Because you'd say, okay, it's really unlikely that we would exceed that many rigs, right? So can we just get back to there using this method, or not? And I don't don't have a dog in the hunt. Let's remember the brownouts. I'm just curious if they've fixed those issues, or is this simply allowable because of just how few rigs are out there.
Yeah. Well, there's a couple things.
We are pro carbon reduction, pro net zero. We love the earth. Josh, he spends his time planting trees on the weekends. So just to be clear.
Yeah, we're as green as you can get.
He doesn't even call his own mom. He calls Mother Earth mom. So Josh he's hardcore. Just so everyone knows where we stand. We'll get canceled today.
Yeah, so there's two articles run for the roundup. Just wanted to mention some of this. So oil obviously is over $50 at the moment. What they're saying in the news is the hopes for another economic stimulus is pushing prices up. And I was listening to Dave Smith over the weekend, and there was an interesting thing that came up that he said, where he basically pointed out that when the stimulus comes in, there's a possibility that falling employment would have caused the housing market to start to decline in house value. and that the stimulus that they put into the economy was able to prop those prices up. And he made the comment that housing could have possibly become more affordable for people that made less money, because as prices drop, people that made less money would be able to afford more house. And it strikes me as we don't really fully understand what the impact these stimuluses are having on oil price, housing market.
Sure.
Who in the heck knows what's going on? It's good news to see it over 50, but I wonder about the housing market. I wonder about the oil market. When these stimuluses stop coming, like what happens? Like what is the
Uncle Joe's about to send us another stimmy. I didn't get my last stimmy, to be clear, so I don't know what happened. Again, I am towing the line. I am a company man, sending my stimmy. But I think you're right. Mark Grisano, for everyone who doesn't watch his shows, should watch his economic stuff. One thing he pointed out, Josh, about this was that the houses under 200,000, I think it was the number, maybe 250,000. Like they are that market is really tight. There's like none out there. But the houses above like 400,000, I think that there's a normal ratio on the market. I can't remember exactly what it was, but the sub 200,000 houses, they're basically gone. Which let's just kind of tease it out here. When things go bad, most people, they go for a cheaper house, right? They move down in houses, right? And so you have 800,000 goes to 600,000, 600,000, 400,000, 400,000, 200,000, 200,000, 100,000, whatever, whatever it is. They work their way down. Well, if the $200,000 price point and sub 200K price point is kind of there's not a lot of listings, not a lot of inventory, then people can't go down, and that's part of the issue would be is that you can't go from 400 to 200 or 300 to 200 or whatever it is. Like you can't go from 400 to 300, but if you don't have a job or you can't afford it, then you don't really need 300. You need 200, right? And so being able to make that downward movement I think it's part of what you're saying is that the market for the mortgage forbearance, the stimulus checks, all this stuff is kind of messed with all those numbers to people where people aren't necessarily sure where things are going to happen. And then I talked to a guy the other day, and he said that they were pulling off roofs of houses that were 600,000 and turning around and flipping them for 800,000, like right now. Like they're just pulling the roof off. I mean, the roof's a big investment, but it's not a 200K improvement. And so,
well, I can testify that housing prices are higher than they should be right now.
Yeah.
Absolutely, they're higher than they should be, and I don't know when that's going to change, but it's an interesting market for sure. And then we have one more, Ryan. The rig count in the Permian Basin climbs by 10. So as you would expect, oil prices continue to climb. The rig count's going to continue to climb. And I'm not sure, it's been climbing for several weeks now. So it looks like it's trending in that direction for the time.
That it is. Regardless of what you think about stimmies or inflation or whatever. Price is the price for right now, and so we'll have to see what's going to happen. So, I guess that's it, huh, Josh?
Yep, that wraps us up, man.
All right. Well, anybody interested? Geopolitical show for Ellen and I's Energy Week podcast. So be sure to check that out. And just a final note, folks. Just everyone, right, left, libertarian. This is. Take the temperature and turn it down a few notches. Just turn. It's just turn.
Breaks here.
Turn the temperature down a few notches. Matter of fact, I will send this out. I will tweet this out from my account of a pretty rough video from what happened. Did you watch that video of?
I did,
yeah. So there's a lot of talk about Civil War, this and temperatures rising there. Like I'll tweet this video out. And you can go look at the backstory, what happened in South Africa. But this is. Just take the temperature down a few notches. Just friendly advice. However, the show. Wait, hold on. Wait, I can't say the comedy line after that, can I? Because then it would look like I'm opposite. No, that was a serious part of the show. So,
checks. That's serious.
And everyone else for tuning in. And until next time, keep climbing.